Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our podcast today. These podcasts are brought to you in part by our sponsors, who really truly are what make these podcasts possible every week. O'Fallon Nutrition is a company that I've worked with for over 15 years. They're independently owned and operated, located here in O'Fallon, Missouri, right off of Highway K and Mexico Road. I call this place the Whole Foods of St. Charles County, but even if you are not located on this side of the river, it is still worth the drive. I can remember working all the way down at Powerhouse and still sending people out to O'Fallon Nutrition for their supplements. They are more than a supplement company. You can get grass-fed beef, salad dressing, seasoning for your cooking, hair care products, makeup, deodorant, toothpaste, essential oils, and all the vitamins and minerals that you can think of. If you're looking for clean, whole food nutrition, as well as home care, house care, skincare products, O'Fallon Nutrition is your place. You can take a look at them at o'fallonnutrition.com, or if you'd like to have something shipped, if you're listening to me from outside of St. Louis, you can certainly have items shipped. I know they do free shipping if it's an order over $50, and the phone number is 636-240-5283. Again, it's o'fallonnutrition.com. As well as if preparing your food on a weekly basis is your primary excuse for why you're not able to stay on a good, clean eating program, which is something that I hear very regularly from my clients, I would ask you to please take the time to check out Pure Plates. It's pureplatesstl.com. They are a phenomenal place. We get our food from there during the week. They deliver to our Integrity location. They will deliver to your house. They also are just available for pickup. You can go to their Chesterfield location or their Kirkwood location and just pick up meals for the day, as well as just having them delivered right to your door. So if preparing your food is your main excuse for why you cannot stay on a healthy eating program, then I would suggest just stop by Pure Plates. Just try it. If you're trying to lower your blood pressure, you're trying to lower your cholesterol, you're trying to get your blood sugar down, try to do Pure Plates meals for a week and just see how different you feel. These are organic meals. They are gluten-free. If you need them to be, they can be dairy-free. They are soy-free. You're not taking any processed sugars or meat-curing agents or preservatives. They really, truly believe in nutrient-dense meals that are just whole food nutrition. And I've had my clients, or I've made recommendations for my clients for years at Pure Plates. It's pureplatesstl.com, or you can call them to ask questions at 636-778-3555. Again, remembering that they have a location in Chesterfield as well as in Kirkwood that you can just run by and pick up a meal today. Everyone always asks me where I get my meat from, and given that I really eat meat on a daily basis, typically beef primarily, my meat is very important to me. I have an autoimmune condition and I want grain-free, corn-free meat, and I just haven't found the confidence in stores in knowing that I'm getting 100% grass-fed, grass-finished beef. And I have searched and searched and searched for the right farm, and I have found the farm. It's fedfromthefarm.com, fed, F-E-D, from thefarm.com. These farmers are amazing. It's a family. They're here in Missouri, and they have the desire, just like I do, to see people well and to see people healthy, and they put a lot into what they do. It's such a wonderful family to support. They do offer 100% grass-finished, grass-fed, meaning that's it. A beef, and I get my ribeyes, I get my ground beef, my ground sirloin, I get my chuck roast. I mean, they basically have everything. They even have awesome jerky, but they also have eggs, they have chickens, and they have turkey. I'm planning on getting a turkey for Thanksgiving, and if you'd like lamb, they have that as well. But if you are in need of good quality grass-fed, grass-finished beef, or quality eggs, chicken, turkey, don't just settle for what you're getting at the local store. to go out on the internet and check out Fed from the Farm. That you can arrange a pickup or you can have it delivered to your home. And I can guarantee you're going to taste the difference. For me, my health actually depends on it. So I really thank God to have found such a great farmer. Fedfromthefarm.com. I hope it blesses you.
Welcome to Faith, Fuel, and Fitness, the Integrity Way, with your hosts, John and Debbie Morris from Integrity Training Systems.
Hey everybody, this is John and Debbie Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. So happy to have you with us today. We always like to start our show off by talking about what it means to be a warrior. So if you haven't been with us before, the definition of a warrior is a brave or experienced soldier or fighter. And the reason it's important to mention that is because the oars make a difference. So you don't have to be brave and you don't have to be a fighter as long as you're experienced. You don't have to be a soldier. As long as you're experienced and you're a fighter, then you get to be a warrior. And all that means is that you have to have had something happen in your life up to this moment and you had to overcome it. So that's anything. I mean, maybe you were a sick baby. Maybe you were a sick child. Maybe you've had a hard time with work, whatever it is that you've pushed through in life makes you capable of being a warrior. And it's important for us to share that because with what we do for a living, we see a lot of people that just don't think they can do whatever is in front of them. They don't think they can eat clean. They don't think they can survive without their one glass of red wine a night. They don't think that they can do more than one 20-minute workout a week because they just don't have time. And a lot of times what happens is people have just come to this place where anything that's difficult or is outside of their comfort zone just seems so unobtainable or so out of reach, and they defeat themselves just thinking about that. So I see that a lot in my clients where, not as much anymore because I do deal with the same people on a daily basis, but new people will be excited and they'll have that motivation. And then when the motivation fails and the disciplinary tactics start to be required, that's a lot of times where people start to fail because they start to recognize that this is going to be a long haul. This is going to take time. It's taking them time to get to where they are. So it's going to take time to correct what they're trying to do. Or, maybe they're up for a promotion or there's just something going on in their life that they want to get to the next level of. And it just seems daunting. So, whatever it is you're dealing with, we just like to let you know that there are other people dealing with it too. And there are people that have overcome most issues that you could possibly be dealing with. I'm not going to say all. There's people that they have a new one, but a lot of times you can find somebody or something that has an overcoming story. And those people are going to tell you there's nothing special about them either. They just had to do it.
I think something that like a characteristic of a warrior, and I think even, maybe John, you could agree with this, like just from a police background or from a military background, there's this system that gets created in training where like with the military, it's like, why are they doing push-ups every day? Why do they have to make their bed every day? Why do they have to wear their clothes a certain way every day? Why do they have to line up in formation a certain way every day? Like, what is the specific reason for that? There's this pattern of discipline that gets created in those small things, those very small things, like having a clean area, being tight with your clothes and making sure that you look a certain way, standing a certain way, and presenting yourself a certain way. When you start to become consistent in those areas, it's interesting how you can start to realize that you want to become more consistent in bigger areas. And when it comes to being a warrior, your pattern of consistency on a daily basis, the way that you approach your day, you will have a choice every day on if you are going to be organized, if you're going to be consistent, or if you're going to throw it all out the window and just say, I don't have time for this. I'm not going to make time for this. Last night, I was so incredibly impressed with my daughter because she had to leave us and she had to go to this party with her mom. And she said, I need to bring my food
they're not going to have any food for me there. And I was like, pack whatever you need. We'll pack a whole cooler for you. She packed an entire cooler for her. And she comes home and she says, I'm just so glad I was prepared because the only thing they had to eat was pizza. And then someone said, oh, there's a salad over there. But the salad basically consisted of lettuce, Parmesan cheese, and croutons, so none of that's really anything that she could eat either. And she said, I'm just so glad that I had my food. I'm just so glad that I prepared. Part of being a warrior is saying, no, I will take the time to create this pattern of discipline, and I will stay consistent with that pattern of discipline because life is going to hit us and we're going to get busy. We're going to have so many things that are going to come up and so many reasons why we can't stay consistent or why we can't keep up with things. And we have to stop and say, no, it's worth it. I have to double down. I have to go back in the house. I've got to put things in the cooler the night before. I have to think through, what am I going to be eating, the next day? And my 13-year-old has reasoned through that because she knows what she feels like when she doesn't make those choices. She realizes, hey, if I don't prepare, I don't feel good. And I don't want to not feel good. I want to be able to stay consistent with my health.
Yeah, I mean, persistence begets perfection. And what that means is if you chase persistence, you become closer to perfection than trying to be perfect will ever make you. And if you think about that, anytime someone tries to be perfect, they fail. And the reason they fail is because nobody is perfect. Nobody can be perfect. And so an expectation of perfection actually sets you up to fail, and it makes the failure harder because now you feel like a failure. Whereas if you persist, what that means is you're going to stumble, you're going to trip, you're going to fall, but you're going to get back up and you keep doing it. I love the Rocky quote, and we've all heard it, but it's not about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you get hit and you keep moving forward. And the idea is life's going to smack you around a little bit. And when life smacks you around, you have to decide if you're going to get back up and keep fighting. But the thing is, it's not just about getting back up. It's about training. Like, what are you doing to be able to get back up? Rocky, he's getting this quote, he's given this quote about pushing forward, but it's happening through training. And so I just think it's important to recognize like the persistence. You build the discipline. The discipline helps you to persist. If she didn't have that food yesterday, she would not have probably persisted through her health journey because she would have crumbled for the pizza. And she even said that, like, if I didn't have my food, it would have been hard not to eat the pizza. So the persistence actually came on the backside of the discipline. And so when Deb says you pay attention to the small things, that's what she's saying, because you're setting the small things in place as building blocks for the big things, because the discipline is what allows you to continue to make good decisions versus something as simple as the example of being somewhere where there's pizza and not eating it. And I mean, who doesn't want pizza? So of course you're going to want it. Of course it's going to be a temptation when it's there. But if you've got the food with you that you're supposed to be consuming, you at least can make a good decision versus being sitting there and thinking, I'm either going to be starving and smelling that pizza or I'm going to eat it. Just because you smell the pizza and it smells good, if you have that other food, you know that there's an alternative option, but you had to put that in place.
And, as a parent, we have to be consistent. We have to be diligent. We have to set up, we have to be a warrior with this message, right? Like, we have to say, are you prepared? What is it? But what was so amazing about yesterday was we didn't say anything.
She said it.
She said it before we could even say anything. She said it. Now, if she hadn't said it, our pattern of discipline would have come in. What is our daughter eating? Where is she going? How is she going to be provided for? So we would have had a cooler set up for her. But she on her own, because of us, our discipline patterns have now rubbed off on her, and we have influenced her to create those same patterns. And there's a quote from I can't think of the book. It was a book that one of the doctors that we've gone to in the past have told us about. But it says, don't try to do something, train to do something. Don't tell yourself, I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to be more disciplined. Train to be more disciplined. Listen to more Jocko Willink. get a coach, have someone equip you for patterns of discipline and how to become more disciplined. Train to do something. Don't try to do something, because when you're trying to do something, you're basically setting yourself up for a 50% opportunity that you won't do it. You're giving yourself the opportunity to say, yeah, 50% chance here I won't do this because I'm trying to do this.
Right.
But if we're training to do it, then we're working our way into a positive direction, because we're just trying to equip ourselves any way that we can to be better and better and better and better and better and better at what we're doing, at creating those patterns of discipline. And in time, we will set ourselves into a position to where we have a pretty good flow going and we're successful more days than we're not. For more information on how to create a good pattern of discipline and a 6-month nutrition program with myself, or a free personal fitness assessment with any of our personal trainers, take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com or give us a call at 636-299-2208. For gluten-free, dairy-free baked goods delivered to your door from my personal bakery, take a look at sophiesbakery.com. And for 100% grass-fed beef, the only meat that the Morris family will eat, take a look at fedfromthefarm.com.
Welcome back, everybody. John and Debbie Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. Just got done talking to you about what it means to be a warrior. And Debbie made a comment I want to kind of build off of a little bit about parenting. And it's interesting. We live in such a world where people are giving their children the right to decide what they're doing. And they're basing it on this idea of like freedom or creative freedom, or I just want them to make the decision. And maybe they actually believe that. Like maybe the parent believes that. Maybe you're listening and you believe it. So I'm sorry if this is going to upset you, but I actually think it's a cop-out. I think that it's easy to say, well, I'm going to let them make the decision. Like I'm going to put it on their shoulders. They get to do what they want to do. And so I'm going to let them do it, because you no longer have to parent. You don't have to tell them no. You don't have to make the hard decisions. But the thing is, like Debbie went to our daughter's school and was talking to, I believe, a secretary while figuring out who she needed to talk to about some garbage that was in the cafeteria at the school. And the secretary was all in with her, like, yes, I totally agree. We shouldn't have that. My kids don't have that. And the very last thing she said after all of this agreeing was, but, like one day they will be adults. So they do kind of have to learn, like with a situation like this, how to make their own decision on it. And Debbie just looked at her and she was like, but they're not adults. And that's the missing component.
Fourth graders are not adults.
That's the problem.
Even 8th graders are not adults.
Yes. So that's the problem, is we live in a world where these people are like giving these rights too early. They're letting their kids surf the internet and get on the dark web. I mean, I have a kid that I trained when she was very young, and she's got a lot of issues now that she even attributes them to what she saw and found on the internet. And it was a freedom that was given. It started with an iPad with a cartoon or an app of a game on it, and turned into looking at whatever she wanted online, and it's like, this is something that is happening in our world. They're handing these devices, they're handing these freedoms. It's like, when my daughter would get in trouble at school, which hasn't happened in a couple of years, but when she would, I work long days. Like I get to the gym at 5 a.m. and I get home at 8:30 p.m. And so there's times that I only get an hour with my daughter before I go to bed. I would love to say like, oh, so if like you made a decision on that, it probably wasn't great, maybe try to do it different later, or not even address it, or, just be like, well, they don't like that there, and like side with her. But like, that's not an option, because that's not going to help her become a successful adult. And what you're feeding your kid makes such a big difference. If you're feeding your kid toxic ingredients and bad foods, they're going to make even more poor decisions. So you're allowing them the opportunity and the right to make a poor decision because you want them to be able to make their decision on their own. And ultimately, that's lending to them making way worse decisions as a kid. And a lot of times it just stems from you are affected by this bad food that you're under. You're being affected by the stress of life. And it is hard. You know, I said cop out, but you got to understand, like, I'm not just saying that you're not doing your job. What I'm saying is, like, you might be in a position where you're so bogged down by what you're eating and you're so brought down by what you're consuming, cloudy and foggy, like you don't even know how to get out of it to help yourself, to help them. And
or
the
even
only,
see it.
yeah, you don't even see it. And then sometimes it's even a projection of like, I want my kid to have access to this, to be able to do this so they can find happiness in it because you know that you don't feel well or you're not happy.
Yeah, and I can remember growing up, you know, and I mean I'm 50, so obviously maybe I grew up in a different age. Well, I mean, not maybe. I mean, I definitely grew up in a different age. I didn't have an iPad every day. I went out and played kick the can. But I mean, it was we rode my bike all day. You know, I mean, we did different stuff. We hit a tennis ball up against our house. You know, thankfully our parents let us do stuff like that. I mean, we did different stuff. It wasn't this kind of life, right? And so I turned. Let's see. I guess I was 20. And I moved to Kansas City. My grandfather had bone cancer, so I moved there, wanted to be able to feel like I could help take care of him. A month into living there, he passed. Just totally unexpected. I mean, they anticipated he'd live another year, maybe 2 years. He passed within a month. I mean, peacefully. So I'm glad it went the way he did. And so I'm in Kansas City, and I'm just kind of like, what am I doing? You know, I'm very young. You know, I'm 20 years old. I'm like, well, how am I? Okay, I guess this is how it's going to be. I'm going to live in Kansas City.
Right.
I got a job, you know, all this stuff. My parents didn't let me eat candy when I was growing up. We got an Easter basket, and I had one little package of those marshmallow things with the sugar basically coated all around them,
Yeah.
right?
Peeps.
Got some sweet tarts, you know, a chocolate bunny. And then for Halloween, we could go, you know, trick-or-treating, but we didn't get to keep that whole entire bag of candy.
Right.
We went through it and found the things that were of the greatest assets to us. You know, the ones we love the most. For me, it was the Kit Kats for sure. You know, I mean, those are the things that you love the most, right? And then the rest of it, it went in the trash can. My parents didn't bring it to work to poison everybody else. They literally threw it in the trash. The Halloween was about dressing up and going and being with your friends and walking around the neighborhood and having a good time, right? Okay, why didn't my parents let me eat candy every single day? I mean it. I'm telling you right now, it was a law in our house. You did not eat candy, okay? You would get in trouble if you ate candy. You didn't think about eating candy after dinner. It didn't even come up,
Right.
so it wasn't an issue. Okay, so I'm 20 years old, and I am in Kansas City. Guess what I start doing? I start eating candy every day. Why not? Nobody's telling me not to. I mean, let me just try this thing out. The other thing is, it's easy. It's easy. I can run into a gas station, get a coffee, and get a Kit Kat, right?
The access at this
Well,
point.
you know, you're 20. You don't
Right.
really know, you know, I mean, you're like, okay, that's, you know, I'm going to get me a Kit Kat.
Right.
What happened? Well, I wholeheartedly, without a doubt, think my autoimmune condition started right then and there because I became so sick when I moved back home. You know, a year later, I moved back home and I got proposed to. I got married for my first marriage, and I was sick basically that entire marriage. 22 doctors. 3 years later, finally found out I had an autoimmune disease. I ate candy. I ate hot dogs. I ate every kind of processed food you could eat nonstop every day of my life for a year. It was it. It was all I ate. The thing is, I look back, my parents gave me the guideposts, right? I went outside of those lines, outside of those guardrails, and my life was dramatically impacted by it. But man, what if they had let me have that candy my whole entire young adult life?
It would just be worse.
Would I even be here today?
That's possible.
I mean,
not.
would I even be here today? Because I was so sick when you know, in my 20s, we thought I was going to die a couple times. I mean, I'm not being dramatic. We thought I was going to die a couple
that's why I had to
times
see so many doctors.
in my 20s. So for, you know, just for what it's worth, I'm so thankful that my parents, they actually guided me correctly when I was young. Thank God that they stood for something. For more information on what we do with a 6-month nutrition program with myself or a free personal fitness assessment with our personal trainers, take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com or give us a call at 636-299-2208. For gluten-free, dairy-free baked goods delivered to your door, take a look at sophiesbakery.com. And for 100% grass-fed beef, the only meat that the Morris family will eat, take a look at fedfromthefarm.com.
Welcome back, everybody. John and Debbie Morris of Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. Just talking a little bit last segment about parenting and what you need to do to assist your children, and just being willing to take on that like discomfort, being willing to take on that situation where you are the one that might not be feeling the greatest while you have the conversation. And the thing is, you have to recognize that you're setting your child up with a little bit of discomfort now and the intention to have comfort later. And I think that's something that gets lost, is people don't recognize that, like Debbie said, Debbie put herself in a position where she consumed so much in a year. She believes that it is a massive contributor to her current health situations. So when you let your kid make their own decision, when you say, you know what, I'm going to let you decide what you eat, I'm going to let you decide how you do it, I want you to feel like you have options. I know the people around you eat stuff like that. What you're actually doing is setting your child up for future problems. And you think you're avoiding them now. But I had this conversation with my daughter. I said, of course I would love to not discipline you. Of course I would love to just be your friend. Of course I would love to just let you do what you want. But at the end of the day, it's my job to assist you in becoming the person you're meant to be. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to be perfect at all. Look at Debbie. Debbie's parents really set her up for massive success, and she left for a year and she made herself deathly sick. But she recovered from that, and now she helps a tremendous, uncountable amount of people on a daily basis. And I believe that comes from her foundation. It comes from who her parents helped her to become. That's how she recovered from her making herself sick over the course of a year. If they don't have that baseline, they've not learned the discipline, you've not instilled that type of continuation and strength in their life, when they falter, that's when they fail. That's when they grow up and they're sick. That's when they never get out of the loop of not being good enough. That's when they don't get out of the loop of not being successful, is because they haven't learned what it takes. They haven't learned the discipline. None of these kids know that hard work is required, because they get the same dopamine response from success through their iPads. It's a 30-second video to have dopamine instead of actually achieving or overcoming something. And we are just feeding our kids that. They're eating it in candy. They're eating it in food. They're drinking it. They're watching it in 15-second videos online. You don't like it, you swipe it. I mean, I'm watching 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds. It's even starting to infect people our age that can't hold a job for longer than 3 months to a year, because their brain's like, I need something different. I need a different fix, or I need a different, and it's like they're not mastering anything. And that's the direction our world's going. So it goes beyond even like what you're having your kid do. It goes into what our world is going to become. You know, if nobody actually has the capacity for difficulty or engaging or confronting things, then where do we end up? So you have to think through when you're feeding your kid something and you're like, oh, well, I want you to be able to make the choice. Who's it for? Is it for your kid? Is it actually for your kid? Or is it because you don't feel like taking on the fight? When your kid tells you, I don't want to eat vegetables, I only want to eat candy. And you're like, I'm just letting them eat that because I don't want to have the fight. And, at least they're eating something. You've decided that. If a kid gets hungry enough, they're going to eat the food and they'll change their palate. You have to make that decision, though.
During that time for me, just to, kind of to explain some details, I legitimately felt myself be reminded of what my parents had taught me. Okay, I was reminded of it. And when I would be eating this every day, I would think to myself at some point of the day when I started to feel just sort of down and depleted and just like, why am I not my best right now? I would go to the gym because I've always been in the gym. You know, one
Right.
of the first things I did when I moved to Kansas City was get a gym membership.
Right.
You know, I'd go to the gym and it was like, I didn't even want to be at the gym.
Right.
I didn't even want to be there. I was so tired, but I did it. I did it and I stayed, but it was like,
And that
wasn't me.
But even that was a disciplinary tactic that had been instilled in you by your father. Your
Right.
father got you personal trainers when you were in the 6th grade. So even when you didn't feel well, you felt like crap, just being at the gym is a showing of a discipline that was
Yes.
built. And that can ultimately lead to your success because those disciplines, those small disciplines are what allowed you when it came time, when push come to shove and it hit the furnace, you made a decision to get out. If you didn't have those, if you hadn't had that instilled,
Yes.
how would you have ever overcome that? Just having those thoughts you're talking about.
I think you would have just I would have stopped going to the gym. So I'm
Yes.
feeling like dirt at the gym, you know, I'm feeling like dirt at my job. I mean, I'm feeling like dirt, basically. I remember going out on a date and just being like, I don't even want to be here.
Right.
Like, I was just so tired on
Yes.
this date that actually the only thing I wanted to do was just go home and go to bed.
Yep.
And I had this great opportunity with this incredible person. He was a musician. It was like this great thing. Like, I really wanted this date. No, I didn't. I wanted to go home and go to bed
Yep.
because of garbage food. And then the thing is that I could tell, like in my head, I could tell, okay, I don't think I'm supposed to be eating all this candy.
Yeah.
Okay, but then guess what happened? I couldn't get off the candy.
Yeah.
I'm just being completely honest with
Yeah.
you. I went my whole life.
Are
I
you guys-
could not get off the
Are
candy.
you guys listening to this? Debbie was addicted to candy. Debbie.
20 years
'Cause-
old.
Because everybody
was a
always,
real thing.
It's always fascinating. Okay. I love this. Actually, I used to hate it. It used to piss me off, but now I love it. People walk around like, well, you know, if I had Debbie's situation, if I was in a position where I had an autoimmune condition or I didn't feel well, then I would probably do my food. I would probably do it right. I actually had a client at one point say they wish they had Debbie's symptoms because then they would probably do what they're supposed to do. And I got pissed off. I was like, you do? Well, you have your own symptoms and health problems right now, and you still don't do what you're supposed to do, so it would probably kill you. But people walk around thinking Debbie is perfect. Debbie's not perfect. Debbie is persistent. You just heard the struggle that she had, and, you know, she's made that decision on her own to become who she is, but man, having the backing of the foundation laid by her parents, I think she could sit here and tell you helped. So if you're
Oh,
a parent
gosh,
listening
changed
to
my
this,
life. Changed
if
my
you're
life.
a parent listening to this, understand that if you're not building that discipline, when the tower comes toppling down and they have to decide in that defining moment if they're strong enough to take on their health, to take on their loss of work, to take on whatever it is, what are they going to base that out of?
Right.
When they dig deep, what are they going to find?
Right.
Is there anything deep to dig at? Or have they just had shallow food, shallow YouTube, shallow things up to that point to where they don't even know what to do to overcome a problem that they're staring in the face?
For me, it became somewhat overwhelming because
Yeah.
I couldn't get myself out of the candy.
Been there, done that?
I ended up with kidney stones. Okay, I mean, where'd those come from, right? I mean,
Right.
I'm driving by a gas station, and it's everything I can do to not pull into the gas station. So finally, I get to work. I can't even focus on my job because the only thing I can think about is getting a candy bar, what it would taste like. Now I don't want to get one candy bar. I want to get 3 candy bars.
Here we go.
I was getting 1 candy bar every day. Now I'm wanting 3 candy bars.
Yep.
And what happened was it felt like this internal, like weird, like blood thing. Like my body felt it was not going to function
Yep.
if I didn't get the candy.
Welcome to addiction.
So we start going through all these doctors, all this situation, all these diagnoses, and then finally get the autoimmune diagnosis. And I'm meeting with a registered dietitian. I met with the first one, and I'm like, why is she not telling me to stop eating the candy? She's telling me to go low sugar. She tells me I can occasionally have things like that. And I'm like, no, I don't think I should be eating this candy. Like, why would my parents have raised me telling me not to eat candy?
And but check that out. You're being told that you can. And so even though you don't believe it, you want to believe it.
Right. But the reason I'm being told I can is because she doesn't believe in a world where people will ever go without the candy.
Right.
So she's trying to create basically a state in my body that allows me to continue to have this, but she wasn't setting me up for a pattern of success. I would have had cancer by the time I was 30. So I went to a second registered dietitian, same stuff, different day, and finally went to see Dr. Christian Wessling, homeopathic MD, and he changed my life. And the first thing he said was, what is your blood type? I told him. He's like, you're eating all the wrong foods. I said, that's physically impossible. I've been to 2 registered dietitians. He said, well, they told you to eat the wrong foods. He changed my food, and within days, I started feeling different. Days. And he helped me get off the candy.
Yeah.
I was dealing with parasites. I was dealing with fungus. I was dealing with bacteria. He treated all that and helped me get the sugar out of my body. But do you know what my parents did? They kept that stuff from getting into my body for 20 years.
Yep.
For 20 years. And 1 year of nonstop, nothing but that, brought it into my body. And I've kind of spent the rest of my life dealing with that. Now, I am so much better. I am in a way different place than I ever was before. And the reason I do what I do for a living and have done it for 25 years is truly, wholeheartedly, because I went through what I went through.
I mean, I think that's what we do, right? Every test gives you a testimony. So when you go through something, you're actually able to assist other people in the same situations. But I think what's important here is at 20, you get to consider yourself an adult. At 20, Debbie was allowed to leave. You know, she could move out, she could go do her thing. And she still made the wrong decisions. She made the wrong decisions for a year. So when you're telling your 13-year-old, well, I guess I'll just leave it up to you what you eat then, or your child that's younger than that. Yeah, no, I guess I know you really want that and you're not going to eat this. So, okay. And you let them dictate that. Okay. Do you really think a 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, 15-year-old is going to do any better than Debbie did at 20? Do you really think they're going to be like, no, I don't want the pizza at the party. No, I don't want the cake. No, I don't want the ice cream. If they do, you have an incredible child, or you've probably trained them. But of course they do. I mean, I want the cake at the party. I want to go to a pizza party.
Not to mention the physiological impact that the food has on you.
It sounds fantastic.
It had taken over my body.
Yeah, and then it makes you want it even more. That's what addiction is.
Right.
And as someone who is an alcoholic addicted to painkillers and Xanax, I mean, I ate Percocet and Xanax. Everybody that listens to our show knows that. I ate them like candy. I don't crave any of that now. I don't crave the painkillers. I don't crave the Xanax. I don't crave the alcohol. At no point am I like, let me go back and get that. But this morning on the way into the gym, I was like, man, you know what would be awesome? Sour Patch Kids. So it's like
for breakfast.
People, yeah.
So I get it. I wanted Kit Kats, so I'm not saying anything.
People sit there and tell you it's not an addiction, but it is. So like, you are giving your children the most legal, horrific addiction there is. It's socially acceptable. It's in every store. It's accessible. And they're going to get wrapped up in it, just like Debbie did. So just think about that. Each time you tell your kid okay on something like that, you're setting them up to have a harder and harder and harder fight as they age.
Amen. I couldn't agree more. Just fight for them. Give them a better opportunity. Give them a chance. I'm so thankful that my parents did what they did for me. I turned out just fine, but I had a rough year, and that rough year has changed. It's changed the trajectory of my whole life. For more information on what we do at Integrity Training Systems, take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com or give us a call at 636-299-2208. For gluten-free, dairy-free baked goods delivered to your door from my personal bakery, look at sophiesbakery.com. And for 100% grass-fed beef, the only meat that the Morris family will eat, take a look at fedfromthefarm.com.
Welcome back, everybody. John and Debbie Morse with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. We've kind of gone in a lot today on being a parent and the assisting of your children, and it's not really the direction I intended for it to go, but I definitely think someone needed to hear it today. It's something near and dear to our hearts, you know, the success of the children, the success of the future nations, the breaking of generational chains that have been on people's lives. I mean, if you're struggling with your food and your parents struggled with their food and their parents struggled with their food, and you're experiencing anxiety, depression, bipolarism, other health issues, diabetes, all of these things, you know, you really have to question, like, why is this completely in my family? And people are like, well, it's genetic. Well, it may be a genetic predisposition, but it's not something that has to be guaranteed. And if you could have your child not have it, wouldn't you want to? You know, doing the same thing and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. So if as a parent, you think doing the same thing that your parents did will make a different result in your child, you're wrong. You know, so when you think about, okay, I'm going to have my kid eat this, or I'm going to have my kid drink this because I don't want them to get made fun of, or I don't want them to be in a weird social circle, that's actually kind of nonsensical, and it's a projection of how you feel. You know, I'm not going to say that a kid won't make fun of a kid for not having something, but what I am going to say is if they don't make a big deal of it, most kids don't make a big deal of it. If you as a parent just explain to your child why you want them to eat clean and eat healthy and the benefits of it, and that child just goes and does that, they just show up with their own food, they just eat it at lunch, and they don't say, like, why are you eating that? I'm eating my own thing. It doesn't really get attention brought to it. We do this for a living. And so we do this with kids. We do this with parents. We watch it. So you might think it does, or you may have heard someone that has that happen, but I would challenge them to come have a conversation with us about the amount of kids we have not get talked to if the attention is not brought to it. And then I'm going to tell you right now, as an adult, check yourself. Is attention getting brought to when you try to be healthy? Who are you hanging out with? You know, if I tell somebody that I was addicted to painkillers and Xanax and alcohol, they're like, oh man, yeah, that's terrible. You know, I'm glad you got off that. But you talk about being addicted to food, and it's interesting. It's interesting the responses you get. Well, moderation, 80-20, you know, you got to live a little. It's like, yeah, I want to live a little, which is why I have to get the poison out of my system. And I'm not going to let it hold my daughter either.
Absolutely. You know, I don't know kind of like where this came from, but like when I was listening to church yesterday, he said, take authority over your domain. Okay. And that was a pretty powerful thing to say. So taking authority over your domain. So what does that mean? Well, your domain can be your city. Your domain can be your business. Your domain can be your family. Your domain can be anywhere. It can be the nation that you live in, but take authority over it. And the reason why we have to stand and take authority over it, and the reason why this pastor was saying that, is because how many other principalities are we battling against? What enemies are we fighting against every day? And there is going to be the enemy of the flesh that we will battle regularly,
right?
100% every single day. So it is up to us to take power and authority over our domain. And part of our domain is our body, is our choices, is our decisions. And so the only thing that gets me about the 80-20 rule is it feels like we're on the fence. Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit like Christian with this. When I hear 80-20, I hear world. I hear let's be more like the world. I hear let's not set ourselves apart. I hear let's not separate ourselves. Let's try to blend in like everybody else. Let's try to continue to do what everybody else is doing. Let's be able to eat like everybody else and have what everybody else is having. Let's be able to continue to feed our flesh and have the things we want to be able to have, but 80% of the time we'll stay clean. So when I think about that 20%, I think this is sort of like that concept or that way of keeping us from maintaining authority over our domain, over our flesh. And it's like staying on the fence. And remember that, you know, the devil is on this side and God is on this side and the person's on the fence. And don't forget that the devil owns the fence. Okay, so it's like we're basically saying, I'm not willing to fully commit to not feeding my flesh every day. So 20% of the time, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fully feed my flesh. But what I want to say to you is there's a clean pattern of this. There's a way that you can do this and not toxify your body. If 20% of the time, which I just don't like it, it's like, why put a percentage on the amount of time that you're going to feed your flesh?
Right.
If 20% of the time you are going to choose to not eat healthy food, you are going to be bringing toxins and poisons into your body.
And addiction.
And addiction. And you will be struggling to get out of that. So my suggestion for you is find clean sources. Get yourself the dairy-free ice cream. Get yourself the gluten-free ice cream. Get yourself the gluten-free food. Get yourself the toxin load lowered in whatever you're having. Consume something that is not full of absolute garbage that is 100% going to lead to disease.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that you have to decide that you don't want to live in a world where you're constantly sick on something that you've brought in. You know, it's like there are elements like, you know, you might have allergies that are going to make you sick, but that's even something that stems from food. You can give yourself allergies. You know, you're going to have sicknesses that float around that your immune system doesn't do a good job of fighting off. But like consider what you're actually giving yourself. You're saying 20% of what? I mean, 20% of putting something in your body that's going to make you sick. And, you know, there's this concept like, well, you should be able to enjoy your food. You should be able to enjoy your life. If you don't know how to enjoy your food, making it clean, you need to hire somebody. You need to find somebody, because there is great tasting food that is totally good for you. There's great tasting desserts that are totally good for you. That's when you talk about moderation, it would be those desserts. It would be that you don't want to eat enough calories and clean sugar, which can still create problems, but it is clean. And you found a way to make that versus, well, I'm just going to go grab a cheesecake from XYZ place because I deserve my 20%. And then as a prior cop, I want to talk a little bit about what 20% is. It's hilarious. You will never meet okay, I better not say never. That's a definitive. You will most likely never meet somebody who is actually only cheating 20%. And I want you to think about something. What are you cheating on? Cheat meal. Think about that in general. 20% cheat, 20% not on. You're not cheating on your diet. Your diet shouldn't be a diet. Your diet should be a lifestyle of health. You're cheating on you. So when you talk about having your 20% off, you are cheating on you. You're cheating yourself. You're talking about getting to live a little. Well, how much of your life are you actually getting rid of? As a police officer, what I started to say is when you pull someone over to write them a DWI for drinking, you have the rule of multiplicity. So if you ask somebody, how much have you had to drink tonight? You get, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3. You can guarantee that that person has had 4 to 6 minimum, because they want to be honest enough to not get in trouble. There's that little thing inside of them, but they don't want to be honest to tell you the whole truth because they know it's going to get you in trouble. You are lying to yourself all day long with 20%. Think about that. Does that mean every 4 of 5 meals you eat right? Does that mean every 4 of 5 days you eat right? Take a look at your actual percentages. You might call it 80-20, but if you eat 2 things out of 5 things wrong on a random Wednesday, that ain't 80%. Okay? 2 out of 5 wrong is 4 out of 10. Now you're 40-60. And then what do you do the next day? Well, you know, I only had 1 thing off on Monday. I kind of faltered on that. And then I had 1 thing off on Thursday, but then I take Saturday, Sundays off. Okay. So you have 5 out of 5 off on Saturday, 5 out of 5 off on Sunday, 1 out of 5 and 1 out of 5 on Tuesday and Thursday. So now we're actually at 12 out of 35. You're at 66%. You're not at 80 anymore. Work the numbers. So are you actually paying attention to what you're bringing into your body and the negative effects it can have? And then here's the other thing about percentages. 20% isn't just robbing yourself that day. There are foods you can consume and things that you can bring in that you won't even understand affect you for a minimum of 30 days. And it may also be something that presents itself years later in the form of a disease that you won't even attach to what you consumed because it is not the common thing being talked about in the world.
It's definitely not the common thing being talked about with the 20%, that's for sure. And we're just trying to help you to understand it's okay to have balance. It's okay to have something that's not perfect, but create it with some non-toxic ingredients. For more information on what we do at Integrity Training Systems, take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com or give us a call at 636-299-2208. For gluten-free, dairy-free baked goods delivered to your door from my personal bakery, take a look at sophiesbakery.com. And for 100% grass-fed beef, the only meat that the Morris family will eat, take a look at fedfromthefarm.com. Thank you for listening, and God bless.